Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Deal. Some on the streets, they're calling it the Bryce Underwood effect. Michigan putting up a 50 spot against Northwestern. Now, as Michigan fans, we've recapped a lot of Michigan games. It's not exactly been fun. This one's going to be a fun one for a couple of different reasons. One, this was a game that you wanted to put your best performance together. One, you had a ton of top recruits on campus looking at this football game. You're obviously going into Ohio State next week. And Dill, I think most importantly, sending some really special Michigan players out the right way. You know, guys like Colson Loveland, Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant. Obviously not the season that they wanted to have in 2024. Those guys have won a lot of football games, and it's pretty cool to see Michigan play up to that standard the last time in the big house. But I think my most exciting storyline, Dill, some of the young talent getting some burn. And I thought you liked what you saw from some of those young cats, fired up to get into it. Now, before we do, and as always, to the Michigan fans, let it fly in the comment section. This is really the first game recap, Dill, that I remember this year sitting down and saying, pretty damn complete performance. Got a lot of good things I want to talk about. Appreciate you guys rocking through it all 2024 long. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And for the Michigan fans who follow the recruiting trail, you know, buckle them for the next couple of weeks. It's going to be a really, really fun next couple of weeks. And Dill, without further ado, I'll give you the tee box here. Where do you want to go when you're talking about this Michigan performance?
Honestly, it probably started up front. And that's probably been, again, the quarterback play is certainly very disappointing. But you thought at a bare minimum Michigan was going to play good along the offensive line. That really hadn't been the case for good chunks of this year. I thought today, especially in the second half, you saw Michigan play some good, solid, dominant football up front, running the ball really consistently, moving bodies. I thought Evan Link had his best performance.
Yes.
He's one of those guys you're looking at. Like, again, he certainly had his struggles over the course of this year. You certainly hope that he's going to be a big part of the future moving forward. Thought he had a pretty good game.
I'm happy you brought up Evan Link because he's a guy that, he has not been great as a redshirt freshman. That's always one of those guys that I thought would need probably 2 years before he's ready to play. He came in real lean, and you can tell he's still kind of putting on some of that, growing weight mass to hold up in the Big Ten. Yes, he had a tough year in 2024. If I'm a Michigan fan, I'm not selling my stock in Evan Link. I think this kid could be really good in 2025. And Dill, you can say that this is how we kind of pictured Michigan winning football games in 2024, right? 127 total yards for Northwestern. We've been part of a lot of special defensive performances. This was certainly one of them. Then running the football for over 200 yards. Dill, Davis Warren, really good. Tyler Morris, really good. Freddie Moore, thought he had. So, you started to see some young talent at the wide receiver room really emerge. Want to talk about Jordan Marshall. I like this kid a lot. Loved him out of high school. I'm kind of surprised we didn't see a little bit more of him throughout 2024. You saw some of that, but he's 5'11", 215. That burst on that, I guess it was a safety kickoff return. Some serious burst. I thought he ran the football exceptionally hard. Like, you look at the box score and say, all right, the number 7 carries for 17 yards. It's not a crazy stat line. You talk about contact balance, running behind your pads, attacking the line of scrimmage. I thought you saw that from Jordan Marshall to go along with some real burst for a cat that has some thick legs at 215 pounds.
Because you're going to lose Mullings and obviously Edwards. You need to have that guy who's going to run. Again, the way he ran on some of those short yardage runs, and I don't think he had a ton of space to work with, frankly, by the time he was in the game. But you saw some really, again, being able to pick up hard 3rd and 2s. Those type of things are huge. And frankly, it hasn't been super ideal for Michigan at times this year. It was obviously nails with Blake Corum. You never really had to think a whole lot about it. Jordan Marshall, again, hopefully he has that kind of upside that, frankly, Corum had as well. But at a bare minimum, you need to see him be able to run the ball physically, especially because he is kind of – him and Ben Hall seem like they're going to be the future in that back.
Yes, and we just had this discussion this morning. Is Michigan going to go to the transfer portal and add an experienced running back if you continue to see this type of stuff? One other thing I'll note, look, 6 and 6, a 6-win season or 7-win season, whatever you might say, that's not the goal for Michigan. But getting that bowl game is big. You want to get a lot of these young cats, as some of the freshmen early enrollees coming in, getting them some reps in those extra bowl game practices. I think that's kind of a big storyline as well. You saw a little bit of Jaden Davis. Hey, Jaden Davis's career is off to a hell of a start at Michigan, right? I think he's played 1 snap so far. and he scores a touchdown, handing the football off. But hey, he's running the offense, which is good to see. A lot of Michigan fans have been
I was
excited.
thinking, frankly, you talk about the bowl game. Like, I would really hope Michigan finds a way to get him involved in some
Yeah,
way.
agreed.
Again, I think the Michigan fans want to see it. I think he probably at this point, like, given where the quarterback's room at, like, you got to give him a shot at some point this year.
Look, hand up. I would say this. We go to the Little Caesars Bowl. I don't, I don't give a damn what I don't think to speak for a lot of Michigan fans. Like, I don't really give a dang what the score is. You obviously want to win the game. I'd rather see us use that bowl game to kind of get a feel for what we have going into 2025, get a feel for what positions we might need to address in the transfer portal. And so I'm kind of excited to see if Michigan goes that avenue. And the bowl game
because
that they play.
at the end of the day, you're not going to have like those five, like the Mason Grahams, the Kenny Grant, like, and I would hope they don't play in the bowl game. Frankly, there's no real reason for them. They've given enough for Michigan. There's definitely not worth the risk. So like, you're not really going to be at your competitive form, if you will. Why not just let some of the young guys who again haven't had a ton of chances to get in because Michigan hasn't been able to blow teams out. So like, I would like to see them use
this was like the first game we had the opportunity to see some of the young cats because we just haven't been in these situations. And that's a nice segue to go to the defense. Still, one thing from a future standpoint that I'm excited about, there's been some people calling for Wink Martindale's job. And at times, this defense has underperformed. I don't think you can argue that. Now, it's tough to be a great defense when you're playing opposite an offense that struggled like we have all year. It seems like to me, Wink Martindale is getting a better understanding of how he wants to call this defense. Last 5-6 man pressures and just relying on the front four, which really my only frustration I've seen for Wink Martindale is why you sending 6 guys on a pass rush when you have 4 NFL caliber guys rushing the pass. You don't need to send pressure when you got 4 guys that are dudes. And you saw Wink go, hey, a little less pressures. Let's just rely on our 4-man front. I thought this was by far the best version you've seen from this Michigan defense. You're talking about 127 total yards given up, 40 of those coming on one football play. And a hell of a performance by Michigan. 6 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. That's what you need. Wink Martindale, we brought him in to create negative plays. I thought Mason Graham, Josiah Stewart made some money. Mason Graham's already made his money. There's a really good chance that I think both Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Josiah Stewart on the defensive line, I think there's a good chance all 3 of them go in the first round of the NFL draft.
Yeah, no, they're all obviously Mason Graham, Kenny Grant, I think are pretty much locks. Kenneth Graham
Stewart should be, man.
I would think so. Again, he'll probably be a bit of a trades conversation in the NFL at the end of the day because he probably isn't the prototype length, if you will, but super dominant football player. Obviously, the 2 defensive tackles. I think one other thing you liked is taking the ball away. That's been another thing that, again, since Will Johnson's really been out.
It's been a problem all year, though. And, like, that's kind of something you, like, when you bring in Wink Martindale, you think, okay, we're going to be a little bit more aggressive, but we're going to try to make some more game-changing plays. In no way am I putting blame on the defense for the tough season for Michigan in 2024, but you wish this defense at times made more game-changing plays. You saw that today against Northwestern. Dude, what about some young cats? And we saw a lot of young cats get some burn. My first shout-out, I got 2 early shout-outs here. Mason Curtis, who I think is really intriguing how we're using him. We're walking him into the box. We're having him. And he has that length and range to play that single high safety look. I think the second guy I want to shout out, he's not really young, so I'm kind of cheating here. But Jimmy Rolder and Cole Sullivan, those are 2 really good linebacks. They haven't gotten a ton of opportunity this year, especially a guy like Cole Sullivan. Cole Sullivan's future for Michigan is incredibly bright.
Yeah, and another guy I thought you saw a little bit from was Josiah Edmond. And he kind of is one of those ones, like, again, I think really you only got to see him make a tackle at this point, but a good physical tackle, obviously, something Michigan's done really well in the back end. So you like to kind of continue that. But you feel like he's going to be a huge part of what they're going to be doing next year. Because, again, he's kind of the premier the premier recruit from the past couple of years at that corner spot. So him, Hill, those feel like kind of the guys.
That's the conversation you have. And you've seen some good stuff from Zeke Berry at the boundary. I think we all know Zeke Berry's better at the nickel. Like, that's where he's best fits into this defense. And, the emergence of Josiah Edmond, like, maybe does that take a little pressure off Michigan to go out and get a boundary cornerback in the transfer portal, allowing Michigan to kind of focus their efforts on building a really good offensive unit around Bryce Underwood heading into 2025. Bennett, I thought, played pretty well. Again, the whole Michigan defense just dominated all game. I think you saw Wink Martindale get comfortable. You saw some young talent stand out. Not a lot to pick holes in terms of what you saw from Michigan. Feels good, Dill, to talk about a Michigan win and like a dominant win, the standard of what Michigan football is.
And it
That's
would
what we
have been
saw
a damper.
Saturday.
Like, again, does it mean anything in the scheme of things? Definitely not. But, like, it's still kind of fun to go put out a nice performance
Yeah,
after.
I disagree with that. And I'm not trying to be like, but it's like getting back to how like this is how Michigan is going to win games. Like that to me that matters a little bit.
Well, yeah, but like no one's going to think about this win in 5 years. It's an irrelevant game, obviously, at this point. But like what you said, for like the morale, the spirit of where the direction everything's going,
Yeah.
and the fact that they did just come off the biggest recruiting win probably in the program history, you wouldn't have wanted to come out here and put a dud on because it would have put like a little bit of a pall on that. Like, again, is it the win that matters? Probably not. But to me, it's like, again, go out there and play a dominant football game that you've seen from Michigan over the past, well, I guess it is 4 years now.
At the end of the day, it's like you had a lot of guys on campus that you wanted to kind of impress, show that you're this Michigan team that these kids think of. You did that. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.